I grew up in a culture where belly fat was normalized. Anyone with a big belly, especially for the men, that was considered wealthy, that was considered well taken care of. It was a sign of admiration of the status you carried as a person in the community in terms of wealth. However, today, as growing up from an African background into the US, and really adapting my own weight loss journey and my own lifestyle, I now know that belly fat is a ticking time bomb. I'm going to share why belly fat is such a huge health risk and what you should do about it if you are exhibiting any of these symptoms that I'm going to share. Belly fat is mainly an insulin gain. That's why carbs do matter. Whenever you eat, putting anything in your mouth, it's going to either contribute to fat gain or fat loss. The main distinction between how carbs are digested and how proteins are digested is why we see a lot of belly fat. I'll break that down in a little bit. Let me say, first thing in the morning, you took in a high carb food. A lot of times the pancreas, it produces insulin. When you eat high carb food, your blood sugar is spiked. So the pancreas produces insulin to come and regulate your blood sugar so that it's not distributed into the organs of other organs in your body, the blood sugar. So that turns into glucose, and glucose is distributed to different parts of your body as energy. So the kidney, the liver, all the other different parts of the body get some energy. Once they can only take so much because they all are very limited in space. So whatever doesn't get digested is thrown back to the belly. The belly is always has enough space and is always, as you can see, it just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. What happens in this process when you're continuously eating carbs and the pancreas needs to continue to produce insulin, you end up getting something called insulin resistance, where the body is just like, we've done all that we cannot keep up with insulin production. So you typically don't have a measure to say that now I'm full, now I'm stopping to eat. That turns out to be exhibited like mindless snacking, always feeling hungry, always having intense cravings because your insulin register is just off. Going back to Africa where I grew up, most times first thing in the morning, you're doubling up your carbs. You're having chapati, which is like a tortilla, very high in carb. I call those empty calories. A chapati may maybe take you 2 hours before you're snacking on a donut. Then for lunch, you're having rice. This was so famous back home. Now that I see how we used to do it, because this is how I grew up, no judgment at all. It's just that when you know better, you do better. For lunch, it would always be like rice and yams, cassava and beans. It's tripling your carbs, not even one carb. It's like doubling up your carbs. We have this famous culture back home of the way we eat our food. We have to have rice with a yam. It has to be two. You can't just eat rice by itself. So you can imagine if you woke up in the morning, you started off your morning with carbs. You came to lunch, you're eating rice with yams and then adding on beans, which beans is half protein, half carb. A lot of people don't know that. Wrapping up in the evening with another high carb food of choice. How do you expect your body to keep up with that? All along, as you eat, your body's, whenever it's a carb, blood sugar is spiked. Insulin comes in to try and reduce the blood sugar so that the sugar doesn't go to your organs. In that process, whatever is left keeps getting into the belly. That is why you see things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. All these are because over time, the blood starts seeping into other areas in the body because it cannot keep up with the high carb intake. I grew up in this culture. I have seen a lot of my loved ones diagnosed with diabetes, high cholesterol, and it's always, even when I look at my grandparents and generations before, a lot of it was obesity. Because when you grow up in such a culture and it's so normal, that's your normal. You don't think anything of it. If you're exhibiting huge belly fat and you want to reverse it, I'm going to get into what you need to do. Another culprit out of high carbs is alcohol intake. The body just does not know how to break down alcohol. Most times, what is being added on top of the alcohol, these are the sweet, the pineapple, the pina coladas and all of that. Those are really sweet. Again, goes back to the blood sugar insulin game, that you're not really doing your body any service by continuing in this cycle, because of course by the end of the week most people want to relax. They're getting a bottle of wine or whichever beverage of their choice, again to soothe their emotions, just to calm down by the end of the week. All these are things that I work through with a lot of women that I work with. Actually, there's ways to go about still having a balance, right? There's some less caloric drinks you can go to. A lot of people don't realize that alcohol is such a detriment to their weight loss, so such a huge contributor also, to the belly fat. Of course, with my women who are 35 and over, I always put in the hormones part, because when you start to hit perimenopause, your fat is starting to not bulge, whatever it is that you do, if you are not harmonizing your hormones. I shared a video recently with the evening habits that are sabotaging you. All this is intertwined. How you start your morning is usually how you end the day. Let me get into what you can do to reverse this. 1, practice intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is when you're giving your mouth a break from taking in food. So what happens when you're fasting, when you're not eating? It forces, you can imagine you have a fridge and a freezer, right? Always in the fridge most of the time. Look at it like when you're eating most of the time. That's what's happening with the body getting insulin and then distributing the energy. When you stop eating, let me say now the fridge, freezer have no power. First, the body is forced to go to the stubborn fat, forced to go into the freezer, the one you don't usually go to start getting energy from there. So that starts to tackle the fat that's stored that you don't typically let the body even get to burn. When you're fasting and not eating anything, it's giving your body a digestion reset, but most importantly, it's burning from stored fat. That's why intermittent fasting works so well. Typically what I advise, start small. I have a window of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's my eating window. That's an 8-hour window. You can also do 10 hours. You can start from 10 a.m. to about 8 p.m. if that works for you. Start small. You cannot continuously eat through the day mindlessly between meals. You've had breakfast, you're snacking on a lot of things in between meals. What contributes to that are your food choices, because if you start your morning off with a simple carb, there's 2 types of carb. There's simple and complex. If you're starting off your morning with a simple carb, you're definitely going to be snacking through the day. I call those empty calories. Those are the chips. Those are the a lot of cereals now lean to really high carb because of the sugar intake. You're not giving your body the food it needs to be nourished. One thing you obviously see is that you're snacking in between meals. That brings me to the second point. Concentrate on complex carbs. If you don't start your morning with a carb, start your morning with high protein. If you're to eat the carb during the day, make it in the middle, when you can have your carb of choice in the middle. Do not end your day with carbs. Or you can start your morning with a complex carb, let me say oats, potatoes. There's a lot of other carbs, like pumpkin is also a good one that that's a choice for lunch. Be able to distinguish between the carbs that make you feel fuller. Those are the complex carbs. Why they call them complex is because they're higher in fiber, so they don't get digested so fast. So they sit in your stomach for a little bit. That equals to you feeling satisfied. If you woke up in the morning and took a bowl of oats, or if most times I wake up in the morning, I start off with doubling up on my protein. I add in egg and some chicken breast slices on a bed of salad. That takes me basically till about 2 p.m. because I'm nourishing my body. But if I started off my morning with a bagel, bread, that's also very common. Trust me, within 2 hours, I'm grabbing for another snack. That is how your day keeps going. I'm wondering why you're always hitting the gym or doing all these things and not seeing any success in your weight loss. Your breakfast should start with a protein. Your breakfast, you can even do Greek yogurt. You can do a protein shake. Start with something that's going to stabilize your blood sugars, because proteins are digested very differently. So when I told you the carbs go through insulin and whatever is not digested go to the belly, for protein, it's digested very, very differently. A lot of the protein passes through as waste, as bowel movement. That's why however much protein you eat, you'll not find someone gaining weight from eating protein. First was fasting, what you need to do, intermittent fasting. You can start with 10 hours of eating, or 8 or 12. You can also start to top. Have a window where your mouth is shut in terms of eating. Give your body, when you're quiet and there's nothing coming in, no noise, the peace you feel is the same peace your body feels when you're not constantly eating. The beautiful thing is that what happens over time, especially when you start the intermittent fasting, your body starts to get the signals like, I can't eat after 7. My body now is used to it. I just can't, because I've trained my body. That's the beautiful thing. All this is trainable. You can imagine if you're going to bed at 10, which is the point I'm going to talk about, you're still eating till 9, and after you just go to bed when your metabolism has even slowed down. So I try to stop eating at least 3 hours before I go to bed. The other thing you should start doing to stop belly fat, be a ninja about your sleep time. This mindless scrolling, just going through everyone's WhatsApp and IG profiles while you are paying the price by not sleeping. The more you're spending time on the screen, the more your melatonin is decreased. Melatonin is the enzyme that helps us with sleep. If you're not preparing your bed for bedtime, it won't just automatically click for you to go to bed. What does that look like? I dim the lights in my room. I put my phone away from my bedside. It's on a charger that's literally, I have to walk to it. And that's very intentional. I put my phone on silent. I block my screen immediately it hits. I have a 10 p.m. by about 9:45 there. I have the do not disturb come on my screen showing me that time to go to bed. If you don't put structures in place, you're not going to be able to create habits. Structures help you form habits. Every day if my 10 p.m. comes on, oh, that's the time I'm going to bed. Every morning I have the 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. reminding me of my intermittent fasting window. Now it's part of me. I don't even need to do that. Before I used to put that window of, oh, now it's time to close the kitchen. No more eating. Your body really deserves to be taken care of, because the reverse, on the other side, is you looking at hospital bills. You're looking at when you start to age and you continuously just falling sick in hospitals. The price you pay, there's no dollar amount you can put on that. It is so key for you to start now. Start making those small changes to reverse your belly fat. Of course, I usually also recommend strength training, especially as you get older, because our muscle mass, we lose muscle mass. I'm 45 now. So I've been through 3 kids. I've been through weight loss before kids, weight loss during kids. I'm now in perimenopause. So I've gone through all these stages of life. I have a wealth of information on how I've adjusted with each phase. Right now, I do strength train 2 times a week. The rest, I could do walks or supplement with cardio. Strength training is so key, especially as you get into perimenopause. Going back to what I shared in the beginning, the 3 main things that are causing you belly fat are: 1, your nutrition, you're eating high carb. 2, there's the alcohol effect that's also part of the nutrition. Stress is a big one. You're not managing your stress well. You're not looking at, we have to have at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. You're just sleeping whenever, scrolling. And also giving your body breaks. Have a time you stop eating. Else you're going to create an insulin resistant body that is now getting into more health risks that you do not want to present yourself with. Because once you start the hospital journey of turning those doors, I've been a caregiver before, it is just a whole other mentally draining experience. Give your body everything that it needs so that you set yourself up for success in the future. I also went through some of the things you can start doing to reverse belly fat. That was the fasting, that was guarding your sleep like a ninja. Life depends on it. That's 7 to 8 hours of sleep. 10 p.m. I'm in bed to 6 a.m. I start eating at 10 a.m. I stop eating at 6 p.m. Before I eat, for those ladies that are in perimenopausal, I always do my adaptogens. I always do my supplements. That is so key. Take it from someone who has lived all these different phases of the journey. Again, don't forget to subscribe for you to share and get all this wealth of information for all stages of weight loss. Before perimenopause, during perimenopause, after having babies. There's so much you can do, simple steps you can take that can get you for success. Have a good one.